always, right? Totally. Or really anywhere living. That's for
anywhere living.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. It's moments like these that you wish you had like a big house with a office in it.
With an office wing, like an office wing where you have like your own sort of like entire wing.
Exactly. Wouldn't that be
Very
nice?
large door.
Right, you lock it, no one can come in, separate entrance.
Sounds lovely.
But until then, you're going to hear his shrimp sizzling in the background.
All is well. Not a problem. All right. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. And I know I'm doing this along with you. So we are good to go and you can lead us through. Go for it. Right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becky Reback. I'm a certified collaborative and proactive solutions provider, not survivor, provider. And I am the head of parent and family coaching at Evolved Education. So I just want to do a quick overview of what CPS is for anyone that doesn't know. And we're going to do a quick understanding of the ALSUP. And then Mary, we're going to jump in and do an ALSUP on one of your kids. Okay. So what is CPS? That's collaborative and proactive solutions. It's a non-punitive, non-adversarial, research-based problem-solving partnership with your kids. The goal is to engage our kids in solving the problems that are affecting their lives and collaborating with them around solutions that are realistic and mutually satisfactory. So tonight we're going to be talking about the assessment of lagging skills and unsolved problems, also known as the ALSUP, which is what I'll probably be referring to it as tonight. So just a little disclaimer I always like to tell people about the ALSUP is that it's really our tool that helps us be proactive in this model. So as the caregivers, it's not our job to know, but it is our job to find out, right? So we don't expect caregivers to have all the answers about their kids and what's going on with them or what's coming up for them, but it is our job to ask them questions and to find out about what's going on or what's making it difficult for them to meet meet an expectation that we have. So this is basically what we're doing tonight. We're going to have a look of inside the ALSUP meeting. This is done with the adults only, so the kids are not present for the ALSUP meeting. And the reason is we really don't want to overwhelm them with the list of lagging skills and unsolved problems that they have. So here we're just talking about the missing information and what information is missing. It's what are their lagging skills and what are their unsolved problems. We're not diagnosing. The ALSUP is a discussion guide, and it's really meant to help caregivers shift their lens to stop focusing on behaviors and start focusing on solving problems. So this is a screenshot of the top half of the ALSUP. And if anyone knows, there's actually a new ALSUP that just came out in November. So this is a new ALSUP and it's a little different. And so Mary, this is actually new for you too, because when we worked, we did the old ALSUP. So you'll do your new ALSUP on one of your other kids. And it's actually better because it's a little bit shorter, a little bit more to the point. So the top is the lagging skills. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the lagging skills and just check off everything that you think is a lagging skill for your kid. It's going to help us kind of shape what our unsolved problems are going to be. But this part really takes maybe 2 minutes, like 3 to 5 seconds on each unsolved lagging skill. And it's just like a yes or no, and we move on. It's different from the old ALSUP where we used to check one off and then write down all the unsolved problems. Now we're just going through all the lagging skills, and then we're going to get to the unsolved problems. And then this is the whole ALSUP form, and the bottom half is where we're writing our unsolved problems. And our unsolved problems are going to be our unmet expectations. So tonight you're going to hear me coach you a lot on, well, what was the expectation they were having difficulty meeting? And those are going to be our unsolved problems. We're going to get really granular. So get ready to really dig into the process that's going on at home. And there are specific prompts that you can use. There's a school and a home prompt to help you think of unsolved problems. And then you can also think about the lagging skills. And if you checked off, for example, difficulty shifting from an original idea, plan, or solution, don't worry, I also told him to make sure he was really quiet. you know, I might say, okay, you also checked off shifting from original idea, plan, or solution. Can you tell me an unsolved problem that might relate to that? So we'll use the lagging skills as our prompts, and then they're also prompts to help us think. Remember, this is a discussion guide. So we're here really just to have a conversation about our kids. We're not diagnosing anything. We're just thinking what are their lagging skills? What are their unsolved problems? So guidelines for writing unsolved problems. We want to make sure that our unsolved problems are free of challenging behaviors. The reason this is because anything we write on our unsolved problem list is going to potentially be said to our kid in our Plan B conversation. So we want to make sure that we are leaving out the behavior, because remember, in CPS, we are not focused on behaviors. We are free of adult theories. So we're not saying, you know, difficulty eating what mom eats for dinner, or what mom cooked for dinner because he doesn't like chicken, right? We don't know that it's because he doesn't like chicken. All we know is that he's having difficulty eating what mom cooked for dinner. We're going to split it up. So if there's like a whole process with a morning routine where they're getting dressed and making their bed, then, you know, we're going to split that up into separate unsolved problems. And then we could always clump it later in the Plan B conversation. And then we want to be as specific as possible, which is, again, splitting it up and making sure that we're really hitting exactly what the unmet expectation is. So that way the kid knows in the conversation what they need to think about. And then finally, after we've finished writing our unsolved problems, we prioritize, because we can only solve one problem at a time. We cannot solve more than one problem at a time. So we have to prioritize. The way we prioritize is we think about, the first is any unsolved problem that's contributing to unsafe behaviors. Then any unsolved problem that's contributing to frequency. So it's happening a lot, like maybe daily or a couple times a week. And then the final one is gravity, meaning the unsolved problem doesn't happen that much, but when it does, it's a really big deal. So that's how we prioritize our unsolved problems. Before we jump in, I just want to say, for anybody who's interested after and learning more, they can email me, and I'd love to set up a time to talk with you, or check out my in-depth look into the CPS Model Course, where you learn the whole philosophy behind CPS and really can do a deep dive into the model. So I just had to give that little plug there. So without further ado, I'm going to stop my share and then reshare for our ALSUP, which I have all ready for us. So Mary, we're just going to start by going through the lagging skills. Again, okay. I'm just going to read them out and you're going to say yes or no. Okay. If you say yes, we'll check it off. If we say no, then we will move on. Okay.
Yes.
So you have a kid in mind, because I know you have.
Yes, I have a kid in mind. I'm going to do the middle one. Yes. 10 years old. Okay. Got it.
10 years old. Okay, great. Difficulty maintaining focus.
Yes.
Difficulty handling transitions, shifting from one mindset or task to another. Difficulty considering likely outcomes or consequences of actions, impulsive.
No.
Okay. Difficulty persisting on challenging or tedious tasks.
Yes.
Okay. Difficulty considering a range of solutions to a problem.
Yes.
Difficulty expressing concerns, needs, or thoughts in words.
No.
Difficulty managing emotional response as to think rationally.
No.
Chronic irritability and or anxiety significantly impede capacity for problem solving or heighten frustration.
No.
Sensory or motor difficulties.
No.
Difficulty, so now we're in the second column. Difficulty seeing grays, concrete, literal, black and white thinking.
No.
Difficulty taking into account situational factors that would suggest the need to adjust a plan of action.
No.
Inflexible, inaccurate interpretations, cognitive distortions, or biases. Everyone's out to get me. Nobody likes me.
Or would this be sort of like the hypothetical, like mom and dad are leaving for the weekend, they're going to die. Like it's like a projection into something that may not happen. Is that the same sort of situation?
Yeah, I think that could fall
Okay.
under that category, right? Like
Okay.
that's sort of a cognitive distortion a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I'll send this to you after so you can
Yeah.
have
Okay.
it.
Good. Yeah.
Difficulty attending to or accurately interpreting social cues or poor perception of social nuances.
No.
Difficulty shifting from original idea, plan, or solution.
No.
Difficulty appreciating how his behavior is affecting others.
Yeah.
Difficulty starting conversations, entering groups, connecting with people, lacking other basic social skills. Yeah,
Nope.
no, I didn't think so.
No.
Knowing what I know about him.
No.
Difficulty empathizing with others, appreciating another person's perspective or point of view.
No.
And difficulty handling unpredictability, ambiguity, uncertainty, or novelty.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So now we have our lagging skills. And I want to take a minute before we move on and just kind of look at this list that we've checked off.
Okay.
And this is like really where the lens shift happens for most parents, right? So we're looking at this and we're realizing like, this is just a kid with a pile of problems so far, right? And we, you know, in our day-to-day are probably focusing on the behavior that's being exhibited as a result of this lagging skill, right? So our challenging behavior, remember, is our signal, it's our fever that there's something wrong, right? That there's something deeper going on.
Okay.
So I just want to take a minute to appreciate that, you know, there are some lagging skills going on.
Right.
And, you know, our job as parents is to figure out what they are and how we can help him kind of work around some of those lagging skills and strengthen them. So, you know, a lot of parents ask like, well, what skills is CPS teaching? There are many skills that CPS teaches: empathy, perspective taking, honesty, you know, understanding someone else's point of view, all of that, but it teaches it more indirectly rather than like a direct, maybe like social skills program might teach. So now we're going down to our unsolved problems. So this is where we talk specifically about the expectation that your child is having difficulty meeting.
Okay.
And so I'm going to ask you to think about situations that are really difficult for your kid and what the expectation is in that moment and what expectation he is having difficulty meeting. So we can use these prompts here if you want help to kind of get thinking, or if you have some thoughts, you can get those out there too. And don't worry about wording. I'll reword it for you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So one of the issues is that we have an expectation that he cleans his room, and it seems like every day we're asking him to clean his room, and we're just like getting frustrated because he's not cleaning the room. And then we're like reminding him and reminding him and reminding him. And it just feels like it's a constant source of contention. So would that be something I would write down? Like just,
absolutely.
You know,
I'm going to ask you some questions because remember, we want to be really specific here.
Okay.
So, when is he supposed to clean his room?
Okay. So thank you. So I actually kind of knew that from the last time you coached us. So I was able to make a deadline of 8 a.m. So we have by 8 a.m. you're cleaning your room.
Okay.
And I know what you're going to ask next.
Okay.
Go ahead, ask it.
What does cleaning your room mean?
Yeah, good. I love it. I heard you in my brain when I was going through this with him.
I love it.
Okay. So, great. So we said everything off the floor, right? So that's the first thing. And then we said all of your clothes folded in your drawers. Okay. And the towels are hung back up in the bathroom. So we kind of divided it that way. The only issue is that now what's happening is that he's picking up everything off the floor and just throwing it onto his desk.
Okay.
So that's a problem.
We're going to break this down because remember our unsolved problems are split and not clubbed. So the first thing I heard you say, I'm going to actually skip everything off the floor for a second because I think we could do probably like 10 unsolved problems around that.
Sure, of course.
But the first thing I'm going to do is folding his clothes? Like, can he
Okay.
fold his clothes? Like, will he fold his clothes?
Well, they're actually usually, my husband does the laundry and like he folds the clothes and puts them
Okay,
into
so
the
they're
little
already
bin.
folded.
So it's just a matter of like placing them into the drawer. But the problem is when he goes getting, to get things, he usually like roots through everything
Of course.
and they become unfolded. So yeah.
Right.
And they're
Okay. But for now, it's difficulty putting folded clothes into your drawer.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Yes.
Okay. And then the next one I heard you say is difficulty hanging towels in the bathroom.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes. Yes. Hanging towels in the bathroom. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, okay. So when he's picking things up off the floor, did I miss anything else that was already pretty specific, or was
yeah, there was, and then just pick everything up off the floor.
Okay. So what, like, is that like toys? Like, what is he, besides clothes and towels, what else is he picking up?
There's usually some toys around on the floor, or just, sometime, I don't know what's all on the floor, shoes.
So like, where should the shoes
really know.
go? In the closet?
Things are on the floor.
Should shoes go in the closet?
Well, there's a shoe rack. So yeah, they're supposed to go in the shoe rack. Yeah.
So difficulty putting shoes away in your shoe rack. Right?
Yes.
So remember, like, all of these are written in kid-friendly language.
Okay.
Because like, once we decide what we want to plan B, this is exactly what we're going to say to him in the plan B conversation.
Okay.
And the reason I'm really being specific is because we want to choose like one, because we don't know that it's the same concern for putting away his shoes, hanging his towels, or putting away the folded clothes, right? Like, we don't know that it's the same thing getting in his way. So what we can do, let's say in the plan B, we prioritized putting his shoes away because you're really tripping over them, right? Because they're big and whatever.
Yeah.
So we start with that. Once we get some concerns in the plan B conversation, then we could say, hey, I noticed it was also difficult for you to put your folded clothes away in your drawer and hang your towels in the bathroom. Is it the same concern? And if he says yes, then
I'm live right now. You can't come in here.
I need to come into the Q&As.
I'll give it to you. Yeah.
So if he says yes, then we clump it all together in the plan B conversation. If he says no, then we know that we have to have a separate conversation about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's why we're being really, really specific. I know it feels really, nitpicky, but there's a purpose.
Right.
More specific.
It's like problem. It's always shocking to me, like how specific you have to be for the kids to really make progress in these things, because I just sort of want them to go in and just like clean their room and put everything away. I can't, like, I just feel like that's like in my brain, that's enough, right? I'm like, okay, just put everything away. They all have spots. But then I realize, like when you're teaching us this stuff, that like breaking it down into these really small pieces and actually talking to them about each of them slowly, even though it takes more time, it's like, it's exactly what actually solves the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, like, the more specific you are, the better your plan B conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
So
100%.
And the other thing is, I'm just going back to like the original expectation, which is picking everything up off the floor.
Right.
A lot of the times if I work with parents and they say, well, I just want them to pick everything up, like, you have specific things, right? Like put the folded clothes away, pick up the towels. But like, sometimes parents don't even know what that means. So how does the kid know what that means?
Right.
Right. So sometimes I coach people in saying, why don't you make a very clear expectation and then go back to your kid and tell them what that expectation is, and see if that solves the problem. If it does, then we know it was just, the expectation wasn't clear. If it doesn't, then we know we need to move forward with it on our unsolved problem list.
Right. Very good point.
Okay. So toys, so they need to be in like a toy bin.
Yeah, a toy box.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oops, not toes. Toys in your toy box. Okay. What else is an unmet expectation?
Another expectation?
Yeah, or it could be in the same category or something else, another
something totally different.
Sure. Whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, well, I feel like he has a low tolerance of doing tedious work. So it's like with his schoolwork or different types of work that he has to, like almost like vocabulary work, things that he has to kind of fill in a lot of different exercises within. He sort of tries to avoid it or asks for help right away.
So is
without-
it getting started on work or completing it?
It's like, yeah, more like in the middle of it. It's like completing it. Mhm.
Okay, so I heard you say something about vocabulary. What
Yes,
does he have
vocabulary.
to do? What does he have
Say
to do?
again?
What does he have to do for the vocabulary work? Does he have to like do sentences, fill in the blank?
Right. There's a whole bunch of different exercises. So he has to know the words, then he has to fill in sentences, like fill in the blanks, then he has to find synonyms, then he has to answer particular questions using the words. So there are a number of exercises and they're usually mixed up. So it's not really the same exercises every single time, but I
Okay.
notice he'll always leave it to last, or he'll come and ask for help. Like he doesn't delay it to the point where he's not getting it done, but there's always some kind of inefficiency, like when he's doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he like, would you say there's like a reading, does he read the directions? Like, is there anything around
No,
that?
I actually think that might be it. Well, I mean, he might just have difficulty actually reading the directions and understanding
Okay.
it. I don't think he actually even reads the directions, because a
Right.
lot of times I'll just tell him to read it and then he'll read it and it'll go, oh yeah, I get it.
Is it like a worksheet, a vocabulary worksheet?
It's a workbook.
Workbook.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna say reading the directions, not for, but in your vocabulary workbook. It's for homework?
Yep.
Okay, great. Keep going. What else? What other tedious tasks?
Just also finding things to do in the day that don't involve YouTube or video games. So
I'm gonna
doing
ask,
something.
what's the expectation there?
Yeah.
Like,
So,
right? So what should he find to do, right? Like, what are you expecting him to do otherwise that he knows, right?
something else. I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things here. There's Legos, there's games,
So
there's
it could be like difficulty
basketball.
turning off YouTube to play Legos.
Yes, I think that's a little bit of it. Yeah. It's a difficulty leaving the YouTube videos of the replays of football games. Yes.
Ah, that's so specific. Turning off
Yes.
replay of football. I'm laughing because I know your older son wants to watch the replays of things too.
It's like a big deal in my house. Like
Right.
lots of replays.
Lots of replays.
They have
Turning off.
a large volume of sporting history in the brain. Yeah.
So funny. So we could actually leave this at like turning off replay of football on YouTube, but we could also say like, and we could do another one of like, turning off replay of football on YouTube to play Legos as an example, right? Like if you want him to not be on the screen and be doing something else.
Yeah.
Is it hard for him to turn off this to like do his homework, or or come to dinner or get ready for bed or?
No, I just find it's not that hard for him if it's something that's more like a requirement. It's just more when it's a long day of just free time, which we seem to have a little bit more of right now. So just, that's a little bit harder for him than to just go find something else to do that's equally fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's 7:56.
Yeah.
So I want to be mindful that we're going to end in a few minutes. So I actually want to go through the exercise of prioritizing with you.
Okay.
That way, the people that are here can see the prioritization and you too, right?
Okay.
So, and then if me and you want to finish this up at a later date, we can, if you want to.
Sounds good. Get the room done. No more.
Yeah.
No more dirty rooms. Yeah.
So remember, the way we prioritize is safety, frequency, and gravity. So I like to choose our top 3 that we want to focus on, knowing we're only going to focus on one at a time, but it kind of cues us up for the top 3 conversations we're going to have. So we'll have one and then we'll give it a couple of days. If it works, we'll move on to the next kind of thing, because CPS is really meant to be a rolling process.
Okay.
So looking at these based on safety, frequency, and gravity,
Uh-huh.
I would imagine none of these are really contributing to unsafe behavior.
Yeah,
So that's
nothing is really unsafe, exactly. It's just more like gravity and frequency probably. So I would say probably we do like putting the folded clothes into your drawer, I think is just like a constant.
okay.
I would say probably I'd take one from each category, like that one, and then do like difficulty completing the vocabulary. And then maybe the other one, just difficulty turning off the replay of football to play Legos. I would do that one just because I think it seems like it's harder, in my opinion, to get off to do other play.
Do other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. That was really good prioritizing. So I like that you chose one from each category, because remember, when you have a plan B, like for example, all the stuff in his room, you can clump that. Like you can ask in the plan B conversation if it's the same concern, right? I'm kind of repeating myself, but that I'm glad you actually chose different categories, because we might be able to clump it together, right? So we don't know quite yet until we talk to him and, and find out from his perspective. What questions do you have? Or are there any Q&As out there? Does anyone have any questions?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Anybody who's watching have any questions about what we're looking at? If you want, you can throw them in the chat. I guess, I think everyone who's like watching may just not really know what's next, but maybe I could just briefly, share like my experience of this is that, I think when I was coached by Becky, well, first of all, my son is in a school that uses this, and then I was alerted to it that way. And then Becky coached my husband and I, and we learned that when we came to our child with the question of why, you seem to be having difficulty putting your folded clothes into your drawer, like what's up? The extraction of what came from our kid was actually really off mark from what we thought was the problem. And it almost like always is, actually, now that we do this more regularly. So I just think this is so huge, because it's such a paradigm shift of like where you started in the whole conversation here around like, it's not your job to know, it's just your job to find out. And I think that's really changed my entire parenting plan. So this has the potential to really reverse everything that you do with your interactions with your kids, and kind of blow your mind too as to how you really don't know your kids as much as you maybe think you do. And it's so refreshing actually too, because quite frankly, when they tell you what the problem is and then you can come up with a solution that really involves them, it just puts all the load off you, because they've defined the solution and it's really so much more their ownership. So I notice when I'm having a lot of like failure in parenting, it's because I haven't done this. And it's like,
it's
I'm
not failure.
screaming at somebody like, it's done. Yeah, totally. So, good lesson. Yeah. But totally helpful, totally important. And just to me, this is really a wonderful way to parent children and to teach them, these important skills. So thank you, Becky, for coming this evening and talking us through this and getting me started on getting in there with my kid.
Yes.
And I do want to tell everyone, we'll email you.
Are you there?
Oh, what'd you say? Becky, what'd you say?
Oh, you're back now. Hi.
Oh, okay. My internet connection went in and out. Yeah.
Oh, hi.
So I was just going to say, we'll email everybody Becky's information and the course that she teaches. So if you do want to get involved, we'll make sure you have those pieces after this. And we also have a video of this as well, so you could rewatch and just listen to the whole exercise again. So thank you so much for coming this evening, and have a nice rest of your evening. Go have your dinner, Becky. Thank you.
Thanks for doing this with me, Mary.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.